Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you dropped by.
I've taken 20 of my best DIYs in 2020 and I've compiled them in this video. These are DIYs that I've chosen either because I really enjoyed creating them or they got really great feedback from you guys. I will start off with my 20th and count down all the way to my most favorite. I will take this Dollar Tree basket and using the bottom of it, I will create my snowshoe shape. I will simply cut the bottom part of it out. I thought that this shape was perfect for the snowshoe. Taking several large craft sticks, I'm simply going to hot glue them all in place to create the rest of the snowshoe shape. Now taking a jumbo craft stick and a large craft stick, I'm going to place them together. I'm going to just hot glue that in place also to complete my snowshoe shape. Now taking a couple of craft sticks, I'm going to create the crossbar areas where I will attach my faux netting. Now I will take this Dollar Tree wastebasket and I will simply cut some of the wire out, and this will become the netting for my snowshoe. After placing this wire down, I will just follow along the shape that I want to use for the netting piece. I want to make sure and not cover the entire area because I'm going to use some jute twine to create the lacing for the snowshoe. I will do the same for this middle piece, which is larger. I'm just simply going to cut it down, and as you can see, I will have plenty of room for my lacing, and then I've also cut this bottom piece out. Now that I've cut all my pieces, I'm going to now give all of these pieces 3 coats of hazelnut chalk paint. And once these coats have dried, I'm going to come back with some fawn, and I'm just slightly going to give some highlighting for my faux wood look. I will also do this for the netting portion because I want to give a little bit of dimension. After everything is dried, I'm going to place a good glossy coat of Mod Podge. I am going to place some glossy Mod Podge on the netting because I don't want any of the paint to come off when I work with the jute twine. Once everything is dried, I'm taking an estimated length of twine and I'm going to start weaving it through the netting and onto the snowshoe. This first section, which is the very side area, I had began weaving it and placing a knot at every single hole. But then when I reached the top portion, I realized that it would be much simpler if I just simply wove the twine just through each hole. It was much simpler, but because I'd already done that, I did complete the opposite side with the knotting. But then the rest of my snowshoe, I just simply wove it through the holes and around the snowshoe frame. I'm just simply going through each hole and then just looping it around the framing, and it looks great. I am making sure to keep it nice and tight. Not too tight, but tight enough that the strings are not loose. And then now I am working with the second piece of netting, and after placing a knot on the first string and coming in with a second string and placing a knot to secure that, I am, for this section, only in the top section here, I am weaving the twine through the actual strings and not around the frame, but I'm going through each string and then going through each hole of the netting. But for the rest of it, which is the two sides and the bottom portion, I am just doing a simple weaving it through the hole and around the snowshoe shape. Now this bottom section, I am working at the bottom first because it's kind of difficult with the triangle shape. And then I'm working my way up, over, and down back again, and then just simply knotting it. Now I'm going to take some buffalo check ribbon that I purchased at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to create a bow. Now I'm going to tie this all together with another Dollar General ribbon that is the same pattern but smaller. And I'm going to tie it tightly around, and then I'm going to pull each one of the loops out and fluff this bow up. Now I'm taking some Walmart floral that I purchased last year, and I want to say I think I saw it this year. And I'm going to take this Walmart pick and place it in the center. Now I'm going to attach all of these together to the snowshoe frame through the netting with a piece of floral wire. And then I'm going to take my bow and I'm going to simply use that ribbon that I used to pull it all together, and I'm going to just tie it to the actual floral. And here is my faux snowshoe, and I think it looks cute. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This Best 20 DIYs in 2020 is hosted by Heidi of Heidi Sonboul DIY and Leonep of DIY Beauty on Purpose. I've placed both of their channel links down in the description box. I found some wrought iron corn stalks at Dollar Tree. One was yellow and one is orange, and so I've decided to paint them to match my decor, which is in the sage green color and the white color with some natural. And I'm just taking my celery in the Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to give this 2 good coats all over. And I am doing all the metal on the corn cob, and I'm doing the leaves on both sides and almost the entire stem, the metal stem. I am leaving just a small portion of it bare because it will be pushed into some floral foam. And now this is the orange corn stalk, and I'm giving it 2 coats of the Waverly chalk paint in white. And it was not too difficult to cover. The color of it does show if you look very, very closely through the holes, because I could not get obviously to the inside of it, but that is if you have to really look closely in order to see it. And so here I am taking a bucket that I used this last spring for another project, and so I'm just reusing what I already have. So I didn't have to go and buy another piece for this project. I already had this. And I'm simply going to use a stencil from Hobby Lobby that I have. And I'm using different parts of it, not the entire piece of it, and I am also placing them differently than what they lay. I am using this checkered part for the top and giving it just a good coat. I did tape it down to keep it secure, and if you notice, the bucket that I am using was painted with chalk paint and distressed in white. And now I'm going to use this portion of the same stencil, and I've taped it down also, and I'm just very carefully stenciling on with my little dauber. And it's this adorable rooster in a framed stencil. I'm being very careful to not go outside of the lines to the other stencil part, since I am only using this. And how adorable is this? Now I'm taking some floral foam and I'm just pushing it down. I won't have to secure it because it was very tight in there. And now I'm taking these two pieces, and they are the exact same height, and I wanted them staggered. I wanted one to be shorter than the other, so I bent it, and then I did use my wire cutters to clip the wire in much tighter. And after I've secured both of them in, I'm taking my Spanish moss and I'm just going to cover and push into the areas that don't have the foam to make sure that it does not show. And here is my finished project, and I love this fall piece.
I found everything I need at Dollar Tree. A cute greeting card, burlap ribbon, gift bags, and 3 5x7 stretched canvases. Simple crafting supplies will be used. First, I'll cut the front of the greeting card off. Next, I'll apply Mod Podge with a sponge brush to one of the canvases. Immediately place the card onto the canvas, pressing all over. Cut the bag in half along the entire side. Tear the corners open and carefully remove the paper that's holding the handle. Also remove the handle. Line up what you want to show on the canvas. The lines on the bag were a good guide for centering the heart. I simply made creases as to where I would need to trace. Now I'll trace the canvas. I place both bags together and carefully cut them at the same time. Brush Mod Podge onto a canvas and lay one of the cutouts onto the canvas, pressing gently to remove any creases or bubbles. Lay it on its top to apply continuous pressure. I do the same with the third canvas. With those two drying, I'll add Mod Podge over the top of the canvas with the card. Always wait till your Mod Podge is completely dry before you seal the project with Mod Podge on the top. Now I'll use the burlap ribbon to connect all three canvases. This wrapping paper has a measured grid on the back and comes in handy if you don't have a measuring mat. I arranged all three pieces on the paper and laid them 2 inches apart. I made sure to place the cute puppy dog in the center. Measure the ribbon with some extra. You can always trim that off later. Glue the pieces in place, but make sure that the ribbon is upside down also. While that's drying, I'll make my bow, and I'm going to need some wire. For this type of bow, I'm going to make 5 loops. Firmly hold the ribbon as you're making your loops, and be sure to have 2 tails. Now I'll secure the loops together with the wire and trim off the excess. Now I'll cut the tails and make a slant cut on the ribbon. After the glue is dry, trim off the excess pieces. Now I can turn my project over and hot glue my bow onto the top canvas. And there it is, super cute and ready to brighten my home for Valentine's Day. The total cost of this project was only $6. I found this bag at Dollar Tree, and although this design is adorable, it's not exactly what I'm wanting. I'll turn the bag over. I'm using this stencil from a pack from Walmart and insert a board into the bag to keep paint from staining the other side. After taping it down, I apply Waverly ink chalk paint. I carefully sponge on the paint to all the lettering. Now I apply white to the beehive. Then I used some slick fabric paint in yellow for that cute little bee. Now I carefully remove the stencil. My little bee needs some more attention, so I take a fine point Sharpie marker and trace his whole body and legs. My shopping bag is ready to head out the door. I've added these sweet daisies. I'm going to take this glass that I purchased at Dollar Tree and I'm going to use it as a bracelet holder. First, I'm going to remove the sticker
And I'm going to show what I did to remove this sticker, because if you're like me and you have problems with stickers, I hate removing and peeling off stickers, but it is an easy fix. You just need a blow dryer and put it on high heat and get that sticker warmed up, and then it will much more easily and in one piece come off. And if it still has problems, just keep working at it. But now I'm left with this sticky residue. What do? Use some hand sanitizer. And we have a lot of that on hand right now, don't we? I'm going to use these 3 paint colors for my painting project inside of this glass. I wanted to look decorative, and I wanted to use the same colors that I've been using, which is the mineral that you see here and the ballet slipper, and then my off-white that I made myself. I'm simply mixing the colors with a popsicle stick and just letting the color drip down in there whichever way it will go. And I'm just letting gravity do its thing. Now I'm going to use some of the ballet slipper. This is a lot thicker, so I'm just going to work with it and mix it up a little bit more. And it's a lot thicker, but it's okay. This is a painting project that is not perfect, so you just go with what happens. And I'm just going to let that drip in there all over. Now, I did not let the gray dry before I started to add the pink in there. I did both of them as they were wet. I used the pink over the gray. Once I was done with both of those, I let them dry fully and completely. And then I came back with my off-white and I painted all of the areas that were visible, that didn't have any paint on them. And as you can see, it's creating a design. I painted 2 coats and let each coat dry before I repainted the second coat. But this was a easy and fun little painting project. And because the paint is on the inside, it's nice and smooth on the outside and it won't ever be scratched. Now, because of the surface and the cubbies being a little slick, I'm worried about this slipping, so I'm going to place a layer of hot glue all around the rim of the glass, and that will give enough traction to keep the glass from sliding around inside my cubby. This bracelet organizer is a smart choice because it uses the space vertically, and the paint turned it into a one-of-a-kind piece of boho chic artwork. Now I'm going to create a sign, and I'm going to take this Dollar Tree sign that is loaded with glitter, and I'm going to simply sand off as much of the glitter as I can. And now I'm taking this paper, which is from a pack that I purchased at Hobby Lobby, and because this is a pattern with simple gingham shapes, it's not difficult to conceal the fact that it is all pieced together. Now I'm just going to Mod Podge the back of this paper and apply it. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to my channel by clicking that subscribe button, and in order to not miss any of my upcoming videos, be sure to click on that notification bell and select the word all. And I'm just lining up very carefully all my little sections. As I said before, this pattern allows me to be able to piece these sections together without it showing very much that it is all pieced together. And I love this gingham pattern, and the color is so adorable and such a fresh color for Christmas. Now I'm going to take these wooden puzzle pieces from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to glue them to each other and all the way around the edge of my sign to create a frame. And there are some pieces that aren't too long, so I'm just using this little hacksaw from Dollar Tree. I'm cutting them down. Now I'm taking this Dollar General sign, which is absolutely adorable, and I'm going to apply it, but because of the colors that are in the sign itself, I'm afraid you won't be able to see the wording very clearly. So I'm going to take some white Waverly chalk paint. I've just measured the area of what I will cover, and I'm doing it in a very rough pattern. I'm not making an exact circle. I am making it very rustic by not making definite lines, almost as if there was sugar or something smeared all over in the center. And then I'm going to take some white chalk paint, and I'm going to just lightly brush over the entire frame of this. And now I am just simply taking each one of these decals and I'm placing them where I want them. It almost looks like a tray, and you could very easily use it as a tray. And I'm going to use some glossy Mod Podge and place 2 coats all over the inside of my sign. The glossy Mod Podge will also hide the fact that these are decals because of the shininess of the decal. And now I'm taking some more of these puzzle pieces, and I'm going to place them on the back side to help create a stand for this to stand on its own without it being hung. I'm just simply using some Gorilla Glue and some hot glue. And now I'm taking this wonderful frosted Dollar Tree fern, and I'm taking 2 sections of the fern, and I am just simply going to hot glue them down to the top of this frame. And I'm taking some pieces of berries from another Dollar Tree floral. And here is some more of that adorable gingham glittered ribbon that it looks as if sugar has been sprinkled all over it. The greenery was hiding a lot of the wording, so I removed all of the floral and the bow, and I reattached everything to the top of my sign. And here is my adorably sweet gingerbread sign. I hope you love this as much as I do because it's so cute.
So I begin by removing these embellishments. I'll also remove the glue. Taking white chalk paint, I will apply 1 coat in a 1-inch strip around the pumpkin and also along the edge.
DIY or doing it yourself is a great alternative to decorating with the things that you love.
Now I'm applying 1 coat of Waverly chalk paint in ink black to the stand. I will also apply it to the back part of the stand to make sure that the brown isn't visible. This is a Dollar Tree kitchen towel, and I'm deciding how I want the pattern to lay on the pumpkin. I will cut the towel just short of the edge of the pumpkin.
I'll also trim the bottom piece. Now I will fray the edges, and this is why I painted the edge of my pumpkin. I trim the longest frayed pieces and with hot glue I add the cut towel piece. I'm painting this rooster wooden piece black from another craft that I made this spring and reusing it on my pumpkin. I paint the edges. After one coat drying, I sand to get a distressed look. And I will hot glue it to the center. Using wired twine, I will create the stem. I will hot glue the beginning piece to the back, and I will wind the wire around the stem, adding glue to further secure it. After covering the entire stem all the way to the top, I fold down the wire to the base and wind around once. I cut the wire, leaving enough to create a curl. I use glue at the end to prevent unraveling, and then I use a paintbrush to create the curl. I fold it over. I make another curl, glue the straight end to the back, and twist the curl end with the first curl. Using a silver leaf from another Dollar Tree item, I attach with hot glue. I found these beautiful Francesca 2-door apothecary accent cabinet doors on Wayfair, but at almost $740, that was a bit pricey for my budget, even though it was discounted from the normal $796.40. I love the leaded glass panes, and I also love the wreaths that are hanging from them. I think they're rustic and farmhouse and just absolutely gorgeous. And I figured that I could probably recreate these if I just used a little bit of imagination. I thrifted these 2 frames, and they are not exactly the same size. One is about a ½ inch longer than the other, but for the width, they are almost identical, and I thought they would be perfect. After removing all the hardware and the backing, I placed 3 coats of Waverly chalk paint in white. After all the paint has dried, I've taken my sanding sponge from Dollar Tree and I am distressing the finish, getting all the edges on the outer corners and also on the inside. If you notice these metal fasteners that are holding the glass in place, they are very visible at the moment, but hopefully with another part of my DIY, I will cover these. I am using a black Sharpie marker to help me measure out and mark all my lines. I go ahead and trace out all the lines that will be the longest part of the bevel marks. And using a small cardboard cutout of a square to recreate the diamond shape, I'm going to mark the bottom row of diamonds. I'm going to mark these areas before I draw the diamond shapes because I want to erase all the lines. I'm simply using a baby wipe to remove the Sharpie marker. It came off with just a little bit of rubbing. And now I'm marking all my diamond shapes. For the edges, I will simply fold the diamond shape and then trace out the half diamond shape. And here I have already marked in the center area the row of diamonds that will go here. And now I'll wipe all the areas of the lines and then draw in my diamonds. And I follow the same procedure with the top row of diamonds. Now I'm taking a thin brush and some black chalk paint and replicating the soldering on the beveled windows. I considered using hot glue and did a sample, but because the hot glue does not come out in an exact straight line and does come out a little globby at points, I decided that this would probably be a better method. If you have a really steady hand and a really good hot glue gun, I suggest that you try to use the hot glue gun for your faux soldering. I'm just simply trying to use a really steady hand. Actually, all of this work is really therapeutic and really calming. I enjoyed drawing all these lines in. Maybe it's me, but I thought it was fun. And for this final section up here, I'm just going to take my straight edge and trace the last of the line in. Now taking some Mod Podge in a gloss finish, I'm going to spread the Mod Podge all over the window, and it creates a very neat, streaky, almost stained glass window effect. Hopefully I will be able to catch that on camera so you can see what it looks like, because it turned out really beautiful. I completed the second window in the exact same manner. And now for the wreaths. I have two grapevine wreaths, but unfortunately they're not the exact same size. One is slightly larger than the other, but with the use of these Dollar Tree flowers, I am going to hopefully arrange them in a way to where they look almost the same size. I just clip the heads off of all the branches, and I'm just hot gluing each one of these in place. And I'm arranging them in a straight up and down fashion. I love these beautiful green hydrangeas. They have the look of greenery, but they are also a floral. If you love the neutral look of just plain greenery, then this is a really good option. And now I'm working on the smaller of the two wreaths. I'm going to first place the flowers along the inside, and in order to create a larger effect, I'm going to place the second round on the outer side. As you can see, this is still not large enough, but I have a few left, and I'm going to just add some more to the outer edge. This will make it fluffier, and in the end, I think I succeeded. What do you think? Now I'm going to use my buffalo check ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I am going to recreate that little sash that holds the wreath in place. And I'm just going to measure and cut a piece, loop it through the wreath, and tie it in a knot, and then bring it around to the back and hot glue it in place. My goal for this window is not to recreate an exact replica, but to give it my own farmhouse touch. This is a very cute sign, and so I want to turn the back side of it into something different, something for fall. So I'm going to start by mixing some brown and some orange together to create this deep, like an amber color, and I'm going to just brush it on the top half of this jar. And now with my crystal chalk paint in Waverly, I'm going to paint about a 3/4 inch strip all the way around, because I do want this to look like a mason jar. It has a slight tint of blue to it, and here I am drawing and painting a cinnamon stick, and I'm just using brown mixed with a black acrylic paint. And here I am painting an orange slice. I'm using orange acrylic, and as you will see, I'm going to switch over to my pumpkin in my Waverly chalk paint, and that paint went on so much more smoothly and so much more vibrantly. And here I am applying antique white in just an acrylic paint for the orange detail, and here is just some dark brown, and I'm adding white chalk paint here, and here I am using some more of the crystal over the cinnamon stick. And now with some red mixed with brown, or dark brown, I am creating the cranberries. And here I am with white. I am creating the area that is the open portion of the mason jar. As you can see, it is much wider than the crystal. And now I am retouching up this cinnamon stick to give it the appearance that it is coming out of the jar through that opening. And now I'm using some crystal to go over any areas that are right across there, and I'm giving some detail with white to the orange for the sections. And now I'm giving some red and white mixed together in 2 different shades for the highlight of the cranberries. And now I'm giving, with crystal, I am giving some detail for the jar to make it appear that the jar is glistening. And I'm using white to create the rings of the mason jar top. And now I'm doing a little bit of a surprise. I am using black. I found a picture on Pinterest that I wanted to recreate at the bottom half of this jar. And so I'm giving 2 coats of ink in Waverly chalk paint, and with my pencil I am looking at the picture on my phone, and I am creating the words hot apple cider in a banner on a black background. And you will see I started to use a paintbrush with white, and that was not successful. It was going to take forever. So I used my fine point chalk marker that I bought at Walmart, and I am simply going over everything I drew in pencil, and I'm bringing it to life. These chalk markers are wonderful to use. I love the scrolly lettering, and I do love that little detail of each letter having a small point or edge coming out in between, in the middle section of each letter. I loved that detail. And so I'm just tracing out the scroll work. If you're afraid of doing freehand, you might want to find a picture of something that you would like to recreate, and you can simply practice it. Freehand can be a little bit tricky, but if you have a guide or something that you can trace, by simply looking at it and recreating it, it is not as bad as you think. It just takes practice. I don't have a Cricut machine, and I don't envision probably ever buying one. So I'll just use these methods. And now I'm going to paint the apple that was in that picture. I'm just using a dark red by mixing red with black, and now I'm using green that's been mixed with a small amount of black also for the two leaves, and I'm taking some antique white and I'm just dry brushing that on. And I'm using red mixed with a little bit of white just to mute out some of that. And I drew the stem, and because it was very dark, I used brown with white to create a little bit of highlight on the stem. And here I'm just going through and giving the leaves some detail to make them really stand out. Now, I didn't like the fact that my picture was coming out, or the leaf was coming outwards, so I wanted to make it completely even all the way across. So I'm just taking some more ink and I am filling it all the way across. So here we are now with my sign completed, and I'm also very proud of this sign. I love how it jumps out at you with that hot apple cider sign. The fruit and the cinnamon stick in that amber liquid in the jar is just stunning, I think. But I especially love the banner and the wording at the bottom in black.
I have several trays, but my problem is, where do I store them all? I've solved this problem by turning it into wall decor. I begin by applying 3 coats of white chalk paint. Next, I'm taking a leftover piece of floor tile that was the perfect width. I'll trace the lines with a permanent marker all the way down. This will look like shiplap. Now I'm taking this Walmart stencil and only using the lettering. I stencil using the color steel. After it's stenciled, I remove the stencil immediately so it does not dry and stick to the tray. After searching Pinterest for a design I liked, I sketched a sample onto paper, and now I'll sketch that onto the tray. I first trace a curved line. And draw the leaves following my pattern. It's really not very difficult when you break the steps down. I will mirror what I drew onto the other side. It doesn't have to be perfect, just try to keep the length of both lines the same. That's the important part. Now I'll draw the bottom and top portions. Using the color celery, I will simply paint the branches and leaves this one color. I will only apply one coat so that it will appear that I have different layers of paint. But I will go over the areas where the shiplap lines show through. I'm giving these Dollar Tree brush and mirror a makeover. I would love an antique set, but I'm going to make my own. With Waverly chalk paint in steel, I'm giving both pieces 3 coats for full coverage. With the price of $1 each and using supplies I already had, this flip is only going to cost me $2. I've never tried this before, and I've not researched it, so I don't really know if anyone else has tried these steps. Now that my set has dried, I will use paper doilies to help me create the designs of an antique silver set. I will decide how I want the pattern to lay. Then I trace with a pencil using the inside groove of the mirror as a guide. Then I will cut my pattern. I apply Mod Podge to the area, making sure that the whole area where the piece will lay is covered in Mod Podge. There is a smooth and rough side. I'm placing the rough side up for more detail and texture. I've decided what pattern to follow, so I just repeat my steps, working carefully, because the paper doily is very delicate and fragile. Now I will Mod Podge the entire area. I will fill the area in the handle as well. I will use scrap pieces of the paper doily. I'm not worried about a pattern because the area is so small that I just place pieces in, making a busy pattern.
I use the same steps on the front side handle. I will follow the same pattern I used on the mirror to the back of the brush. Tracing the outline is trickier, but not a problem after the first try. Now cut, Mod Podge, and apply the pattern. This pattern is beautiful and I'm really seeing the results. Now the handle to the brush has to be a lot neater than the mirror. So I use a piece that shows a definite pattern, and with any extra, I simply wrap it around. The piece that I use here is just filler. This side has the identical pattern and I make sure to overlap. This part of my transformation is complete and I love the lacy detail. Now we'll start the magic with this metallic silver acrylic paint from Walmart. I will apply 2 coats, and with each coat I'll apply the paint carefully all over and into the crevices of the doily, but I make sure not to apply too thickly. I want the details to still show, so I have to apply in thin coats. This method already looks stunning. And you guys, I could not wait to see the completely finished product. I'm usually so excited about my DIYs, but this was really special to me. I had a brush and mirror set long ago, and I regret losing them along the way. I have no idea what happened to them. Now here I'm applying the silver to the edges and areas that have no doily. This is 2 coats dried, and now I will embellish. I'm using Dollar Tree large stick-on pearls and the mini pearls. This super glue came in the package.
Don't miss out on any future videos. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell.
After all embellishments are in place, I use glossy Mod Podge over all the pieces. I also went over the pearls. The pearls will be dull when it's wet with the Mod Podge, but because the Mod Podge is glossy, after it dries, the pearls will be shiny once more. This will help seal the project. This glossy Mod Podge will also give the silver paint an additional shine. This project was so fun, and if you love jewelry organizing, I will link my jewelry and closet organization videos in the description box. I found this beautiful antique looking mirror on Pinterest, and it was posted by A Blissful Nest, and I wanted to recreate this. So I'm going to use several thrifted or Dollar Tree items that will help me to achieve this look. I'm taking these 4 Dollar Tree signs and I'm simply placing 3 coats of Waverly's chalk paint in white. I am coating each one of them, making sure that none of the lettering or the designs are visible. Now I am taking this miter box with saw that I've never used before. I'm going to saw 2 of my Dollar Tree signs. I've measured out what I will need, and so I'm just cutting them down. I'm attaching two together with my quick adhesive glue, and then I will attach the other two. And in order to conceal the cracks or the seams between the two pieces for each single piece, I'm going to use some joint compound. I'm simply getting a small amount on my fingertip and just pressing it in and trying to smooth it out as much as possible. I'm going to let these dry completely. It took about a little less than an hour. Once completely dry, I'm going to take a medium grit sanding sponge from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to sand down, just smooth out the joint compound that was left over. And now I'm going to wipe all the residue of the sanding off. And in order to completely conceal this, I'm also going to place a coat of white chalk paint once again. And it's okay that it's not a perfectly concealed seam. For embellishments, I'm going to take this Dollar Tree mirror, and with my blade, I'm going to cut out each one of these fleur-de-lis type shapes, and I'm going to cut all the way around the mirror first. They are all joined up at each curved portion. So I'm going to remove each one of them first by just cutting them away from the mirror. It was not too terribly hard to do so, as long as my blade was sharp enough. And now I'm going to cut them between each curved point. And I will be left with 4 pieces. Now I'm just going to cut off any of the jagged pieces that were left over. And I'm going to paint each one of these with another 3 coats also from the white chalk paint. And I'm just making sure to get down into every one of those grooves. And I'm not going to show the entire painting of all of these. I just want to show you basically what I started out to do. This is a mirror that I thrifted for $3.99, and I'm going to place 3 coats also of Waverly white chalk paint after I have placed some tape along the mirror so as not to get paint on the mirror. After I'm done with that, I'm going to attach one section of the signs on the top portion and the bottom portion with my quick adhesive glue and some hot glue. I did glue the upper portion. I did have to apply some pressure, but it did work. And now I'm measuring my center point. I'm using my quick adhesive also on the edges of my embellishment for the bottom portion. And after centering the piece, in order to ensure that it does stick completely, I am placing some heavy books. And now I'm going to plan out and place the embellishments for the top portion. I did not create or recreate the embellishment for the original piece exactly. I wanted it to be with my own touch, and so I did not completely copy the design. Here I'm just simply using my quick adhesive. I love this glue because it does adhere very quickly. And all my pieces have pretty much dried, and you can see the beginning of the shape to my mirror. Now I am taking some mineral in the Waverly chalk paint, and I am going to start the distressing portion of my mirror. I've chosen a color that is very similar to the Pinterest inspired mirror, and I'm just using basically the pattern that was followed or that exists on the actual Pinterest mirror. And I'm just using a thinner brush to have more control, and here I am taking my mineral chalk paint with a small amount of water. I have watered the paint down so as to make a much more fluid and not so harsh application of the distressed look. I am removing all the tape in the mirror. I am now going to go back with the paint still somewhat wet, and I'm using white chalk paint to simply go back over all the distressed areas and softening it further. I am not completely painting over the distressed areas, but I am adding some white to blend it out. Adding the white helps to soften the distressed look, make it more muted, and then it will add a third layer to the distressed look. Now, there is a very visible gap between the signs, so I'm going to take this silicone that I purchased at Walmart. I did make sure that the silicone was white and not clear, and I'm just going to put a bead of it between the sign and the mirror, and then just run my finger across the bead. It was very simple to use and was dry within 30 minutes. I'm going to do the same to the bottom section of the mirror also. It also gave a very chalky appearance, which added to the distressed look of the mirror. I'm not sure how much that mirror cost, but I'm sure it was not very cheap. My mirror cost approximately $9 to create, not including my paint and my glue supplies. I'm taking these two garlands from Dollar Tree and I'm going to create some trees. Taking these dowel rods from Walmart, I'm going to cut them down to be two different sizes. I'm going to take these planks and these wooden blocks from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to create the stand for my two trees. I'm going to glue these with hot glue and Gorilla Glue into a pattern that the dowel rods can fit down into the base. Once I've secured all of these blocks, I'm going to place the dowel rod inside, and to better secure it, I will place some hot glue, place it in, and fill the rest of the hole up with hot glue. Once the hot glue has dried on both of these stands, I'm going to apply 2 coats of Waverly white chalk paint to the entire stand. I've taken these 2 wooden beads from Walmart and I've attached them to the top, and I will also give these 2 coats of white chalk paint. Now I'm going to take this candy cane wire garland, and it's a little tricky to use, but I'm going to attach it at the top by just winding the wire around just under the bead, and I'm going to further attach it with some hot glue. And once that's dried, I can work with the wire, and I'm simply going to wind it all the way around, creating what will be the actual tree shape. And now I'm going to take some more of this wire and remove all those little candy cane shapes, and I'm going to attach it from one part of the tree shape down to the second section of the tree shape. As the coils go around, they don't have enough body to be able to hold its own shape. So I have to connect one layer or one coil to the second coil below it. And so I'm just using this wire to connect one level to the next to secure it and keep the shape so it will lift up, or it will simply fall down, as you can see. And all I'm doing is taking the wire and wrapping it around the top part, and then just feeding it as long as I know I want the shape of the tree for the next level, and winding it around that, and then cutting it with my wire cutters. I came back with some hot glue, and I did glue all the sections to those extra wires so they wouldn't slide around, because they did slide around just a little bit. And I will continue this procedure all the way around the tree until the entire tree shape of all the coils have the full shape where it is completely holding on its own and not drooped and falling down. This is not exactly very easy to explain, and I'm probably not explaining it in the best way, but hopefully with my explanations and with you visually seeing what I'm doing, you can better understand this procedure of what I'm trying to accomplish. I think as I go further, it's easier to see what it is that I'm doing. In the end, my tree looks like a hoop skirt, and that's basically what I'm creating, is like a hoop skirt type tree. Now I'm taking this second garland, which is adorable with these snowflakes, and I'm simply going to wrap around each of the sections, and I'm just going to, each one of these rows, I'm going to fill it in with another section of snowflake wire, and I'm going to just measure, cut, and wrap around together. And now I'm taking some adorable ribbon from Dollar General, which is this white glitter encrusted ribbon, and this gingham check that is also encrusted with glitter. And I'm just creating a simple bow shape, and I'm creating here the tails, and I'm just scrunching up the tails together. I'm going to hot glue those together, and then I will attach the bow to the tails with hot glue. I will attach the entire bow itself just under the bead of my tree. And here are my adorable hoop skirt trees. I think they're truly sweet.
I've taken an old wooden toolbox and painted it with my off-white chalk paint. I'm using these pretty pink napkins from Dollar Tree for decoupage.
First, I need to carefully separate the two plies because I'm only using the top layer. I will trim it down to place on the front of the toolbox and repeat the process to have 3 floral images. The stripe pattern made measuring and cutting easier. I will use Mod Podge in a matte finish. The tissue paper is very delicate, so brush the Mod Podge on gently. Because the paper is so thin, you won't need to apply a coat of Mod Podge under the paper as you would normally with regular paper products. I'm now using this plastic napkin holder from Dollar Tree to keep mail organized inside the box. I place E6000 glue to each bottom corner. I will hot glue along the bottom sides. I placed the holder in the center and to one side. It came out very wrinkly, but I actually like the look. Now that the decoupage is completely dry, I will use these hooks from Dollar Tree to place on the front for our keys. After I measured to space them equally apart, I stuck each hook on. I cut off the bottom tabs that you can use to remove the hooks. Now I can load up my entryway necessities. I will place mail and blank envelopes toward the front. Larger mail and supplies go in the middle. Magazines can be placed upright and easily visible. I always need pens or pencils at the front door, so this jar will hold what I need in this area of the box. And now my keys, which are always a mess at the front door. Now I can easily see and grab my keys without rummaging around in a small box. I'm taking this beautiful silverware chest that I purchased at a thrift store for only $5, and I am going to turn this into a jewelry box for my husband, or a jewelry tray. And it's beautiful. It just has some things that need to be changed about it. These things that hold the silverware in place will have to be taken out. There is also a really nice bottom drawer that has lots of room. And so here I am simply ripping out all of the fabric and the paper that was keeping it in place. Here I'm going to drill a hole because I want my husband to be able to place his phone here at night with the charge cord cable running through there, and I'll just use a power drill. And I've marked my hole, and I'm just simply drilling through. And now I will remove all the hardware. This section, which is the back panel of the box, will be sanded because it will remain painted because it has the hole where the wire cable will be running. Here I am taking silver lining in Waverly's chalk paint, and I am going to place 3 coats. I'm using this shelf lining fabric, which is plastic coated. It's quite rubbery and it is cushiony, so you will not be able to feel any of the leftover paper and glue that is left behind from all that was there before. And once I place it all in and make sure it fits snugly, then I will take my hot glue and I will glue it in on all sides. And now this is the cute fabric that I purchased at Walmart. And I'm going to simply do the same procedure, which is to roughly measure what I will need. I love this fabric. And now I've created a seam or a hem, and now I'm going to use this fabric glue by Gorilla Glue, and I'm going to just fold over so I will have a nice finished edge along the back side. And I've glued it down also with that same Gorilla Glue. And now I will go ahead and glue all the pieces down and just smooth it out. And now I will cut the corners. We'll just cut straight down, fold the piece over, trim out the excess, and then to make another nice finished edge, I will also place some glue, fold over, place more glue, and then fold it up and attach it to the side of the chest. I will do the same for the other side, which is trim down to the corner, trim off the edge, create a seam, and then place more glue so I can place that finished edge up along the side of the chest. For the very front panel, it was a little long, so I trimmed off the excess and did the exact same procedures. And now I have everything nicely finished off and glued down. Now I'm taking this really neat belt with these conchos that I thrifted for about $2, and I love these conchos. I think they're conchos, and they have inlay of coral and turquoise. And I'm going to place a strip with 3 of the conchos on this leather belt piece, and I'm going to just glue with the Gorilla Glue and also with some hot glue, and I will place it along the sides where the handles were. These knobs I've decided to go ahead and use, but I will paint them in Agave Waverly chalk paint, and I'm only placing 1 coat because I do want it to have a sort of a distressed quality to it. But the agave brings out the color that is in the material, which has that same hue in it. And I'm just carefully applying the paint so as not to get it on the finished silver lining of the box. I'm going to embellish the front of it because I think it's a little too feminine for this box. It is going to be for my husband, and he was so excited about this box that he helped me with it. He wanted to know what I was going to do, and so I allowed him to help me with part of it, but I didn't want him to see it until it was completely finished, so I let him help me with the small amount, which was in the beginning. Now here I am taking 2 of the conchos, and I'm placing one with some quick adhesive and some glue from my glue gun. And there you go. I love these 2 knobs now. Now I'm going to thread my husband's cable through the hole. It was a tight fit, but I got it through there, and perfect. And I love all the touches of the rustic, the Native American Indian.
I took a wire basket from Dollar Tree and some dried grass from an old scarecrow. First, I removed all the grass from the scarecrow.
There was so much grass in this scarecrow, I'm thinking of trying more projects with it. I plan on hanging the basket, so I wanted a flat on one side shape. I bent the basket until I got the shape I wanted. I used burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree and hot glued it around the basket until I had it all the way down. I had to trim several loose strings. Luckily, this burlap piece was the exact length I needed. After several different attempts at attaching the grass, I decided that the best way was the most simple way. Hot gluing each strand. Yep, each strand. With the burlap underneath, I didn't need lots of grass. The burlap could peek through and still look rustic. I trimmed the grass as I went along, and I could see it begin to transform. I decided to place the grass only on the rounded part of the basket and not on the flat side. I wanted to add trim to the top, so I grabbed a small handful of grass and tied it together at one end with jute cord. I stuck the tied up end into a hole in the wire basket on the top edge. Then I laid the bundle along the top edge and tied with jute cord every few inches. I did this only to the rounded side of the basket. When I reached the end, I snipped the ends off, leaving a small amount that I could tuck into a hole in the wire basket. I created a handle that I could use to hang my basket. With another bundle of grass, I simply decided the length and then tied it on with more jute cord. Call me crazy, but I love to think outside the box and push myself to create something different that I've never made. Now I'm snipping off all my loose ends of jute cord. You can find jute cord at Walmart and craft stores. Now I'm using floral foam. Push the foam at the bottom. If it's a smaller piece, hot glue it to the bottom. These lovely flowers are all from Dollar Tree. I decided to gather the handle with jute cord to make hanging easier. This may not be an old world crafted basket, but I'm pretty happy with it. I'm taking these 2 small cloches from Dollar Tree. I'm creating an hourglass with a winter scene in each globe. I'll start by giving the bases of each one of these 2 coats of Waverly's chalk paint in ink. I want to use the bold colors that are found in modern farmhouse decor. Now I'm taking these 2 small dishes from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to also give them 2 coats of the ink chalk paint. I'm taking these craft dowel rods from Walmart, and I'm going to cut them down to size with my miter cutting tool. These dowel rods will help secure the globes and act as the legs for my hourglass. Taking my black chalk paint, I'm going to give 2 coats to these legs. I will also give 2 coats to the backs of these small plates, but I won't have to paint the center portion of the back side because the cloches will sit directly in this area and it won't be seen. I decided to go ahead and give 2 coats of white chalk paint to the center of these cloches. My little scenery will sit here and it will be a winter snow scenery, so this will help to give that illusion of the snow. Now I'm going to take my Gorilla Glue and some hot glue, and I'm going to attach the cloches to the center of the back side of these 2 dishes. And these are not really dishes, these are more like trinket dishes for holding jewelry or small items on your dressing table. Now I'm going to take these adorable miniature items from Dollar Tree and use them for my winter scenery. I'm simply going to hot glue the trees down in place, and this little lantern and this little sign, I'm going to elevate that little Christmas or winter scenery by adding some white chalk paint to make it look as if snow has fallen on these pieces. These were part of some fairy decorative pieces found at Dollar Tree, and I thought these would be perfect for my cloches. So now I'm just going to hot glue these pieces in place, this little rabbit. And I also have a red cardinal for my other cloche. I think these are super sweet. And now I'm going to take these tricky little snowballs and use them inside of my cloches. And let me tell you, these little things, you have to be very careful because once they get going with wind, they take off, and they kind of went everywhere. But I'm simply just taking a very small amount, you don't need much. I'm placing them into the globes upside down, and then I am taking the scenery and placing it right side down, attaching it, and then putting it right side up. And now I'm going to take my legs for my hourglass, and I'm going to use a combination of my Gorilla Glue and some hot glue, and I'm going to just glue the 3 legs first to one side, and yes, I am gluing them to the actual plastic of the cloche. They are really just kind of precariously set up against the cloche. They don't really have an area where they're sitting on top of. I will put a bead of glue on the very top of this cloche, and now I'm going to place some hot glue on the legs where it will touch the top cloche, and I'm going to slide that in place, and it fit very snugly in place. And now I'm taking some greenery from Walmart, and I'm going to tie a piece at one base, and I'm going to tie a piece at the other side, which is also a base if you were to flip it over. And I'm taking just some berries from, I think it was a Dollar Tree floral piece. That these were scraps, and I just cut them up and placed them all around the greenery with hot glue. And here is my modern farmhouse hourglass with some adorable winter scenery. My next craft will be a log cabin tissue box holder. I'm using this Dollar Tree box, and first I will mark it off. I will see where I will need to end my little logs. My little logs will be made from these party blowers from Dollar Tree. I'm simply going to take all this tinsel off of each blower, and then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut each one of these in half. I will also remove all this little plastic stuff that was holding the tinsel in place. And now I'm going to take a very good amount of Mod Podge, and I'm going to place a very thick coat, and that will hold my little logs in place. And because they were slightly longer than the actual box size, I'm going to take every other one and cut off about 1/2 inch. So I will have long, short, long, short. The shorter ones being the exact width of the box side. Do the same on the other side, but I will do short, long, short, long. I will alternate the pattern for each side. I made sure that each wall was completely dry before I moved on to the next wall of logs. I'm going to take this spackle and I'm going to just simply fill in these small little areas so that you won't see any of the holes. I'm just going to place it at the very edge with this little spatula tool. And it does get a little bit messy, so once I've filled in the little holes, and I'm not going all the way in, just at the edge is where I'm placing the spackle, then just with my fingertips I'm wiping the excess off. Now I need to create a chimney for my Kleenexes to come through. So I need to first cut a hole through the top of the box, which is the roof, and I'm just going to measure, and I'm not being exact. and I'm using this cardboard that I cut from a box. I'm just using my blade to cut this piece out, and then taking this piece from a box, I am simply going to measure and see how wide I need to make the little walls of my chimney. And for some reason, it was the exact perfect size. When does that ever happen? So now I'm going to take the two wider sides and I'm simply going to slip them in, and I'm going to trace out the roof shape and cut those. And once I've cut those, then I'm going to go ahead and glue all my little chimney walls together with some hot glue. And because this ended up being a little too tall, I did cut a piece of it off. And now with hot glue, I'm just simply going to attach my little chimney to my roof with a little bit more hot glue on the inside to secure it. And then now I'm going to take some red or crimson chalk paint, and I'm going to give 3 coats to the entire rooftop and the chimney and the inside of the chimney. While I'm letting that dry, I'm going to come through with some hazelnut chalk paint, and I'm going to give 2 coats to my log cabin. As you can see, I don't have any walls or doors. It's just simply representational. And so I'm taking now some truffle chalk paint. I am trying to make it look like wood, so I'm just giving some dry brushing effect. And in each corner where I place the spackle, I'm going to paint all the cornered edges with the truffle. And then I'm going to come through with some fawn and give some highlight to my wood look. Now I'm going to do the same thing for my roof. I'm going to pretend that it is metal and that it looks a little bit rusted. So I'm taking some truffle chalk paint and just sparingly dry brushing it on. And then over the truffle, I'm coming through with some fawn, and I'm just giving a highlight to that and further making it look like kind of like rust. And once everything is dried, I'm going to take some glossy Mod Podge, and I'm going to give one really good coat to the entire roof and also to my entire log cabin. And once that's dried, I'm taking my tissue box, placing it in, and I'm going to pop the top on. This tissue box holder is absolutely adorable and very practical. I'm taking a mason jar Dollar Tree wall plaque, and I'm going to create a winter scene for my winter decor without altering the existing fall scene. I'm taking this plastic piece and I'm going to turn it into an overlay for my jar. I'm taking some Dollar Tree magnets and gluing them with my quick adhesive to the actual sign. Once they've adhered and the glue is dried, I'm taking the matching magnet pieces, placing them on, and then gluing that to the plastic piece. Now I can begin altering my mason jar plaque without worrying that I will alter it forever. I'm first taking Waverly white chalk paint, and I'm going to work on all the ground cover. This will be the majority of the painting, so this is the first thing that I need to tackle. I'm just placing one coat here, and as you can see, it does make a very streaky effect, but that's because of the plastic, and I will have to let it completely dry before I can add any additional coats. The good thing about painting on this plastic is that if I have any mistakes, I can simply wipe it off with my finger and keep going forward. The brush that I'm using has a very flat edge to it. I will be keeping the basket, so I'm not going to paint over that, but I'm going to paint over all of these pumpkins. And now I'm going to paint the roof of my barn with the white. I want it to have the appearance of a snow-covered barn. And now I'm going to add little details like the snow that would be on the windowsills and along the framing of the outside of the barn, all in the windows. And I'm going to create a little bit of a snowdrift up to the openings or doorways. Anywhere there's a corner where snow can gather, it does. As I'm waiting for all of this to dry, I will go ahead and move on to other sections, and I'm going to start placing snow on my truck. This is really fun because you can play with it and just imagine everywhere that snow would fall, and that's where you would place it. And I like this kind of a brush because I can do a very dabby, spotted type of application, which is perfect for snow. It gives that appearance of the texture of the snow. This is a great way of taking something that you love as a decor piece in your home and altering it without destroying the original and being able to use it. And look at how the snow really comes to life with that second application. I took this Waverly chalk paint and I covered over all of the existing trees, any of the foliage, and also the sunset warmth of the streaky sky. I also added it into the windows of the truck to give it a little bit of a quality that it either had ice on the windows, and I added it also to the grill and at different points of the truck. I wanted it to have a frosted effect, and I also added it to the windows and the entry areas of the barn because I wanted to give that frosted look. I've also added some white to the hood, and I'm going to go ahead and add some more white at this point. And now I'm taking a brown-black mixture and I'm going to outline my trees. Even though this one has already been outlined, I'm going to give it a little more definition with a darker color. And the reason I'm doing that is because when I come through with a white, it will have a more dramatic effect. And now I'm going to add some snow to the branches And as you can see, the white against the dark branches and with a crystal background for the sky really makes the snow pop. The white chalk paint really pops. And now I'm just taking some silver lining and I am creating some snowdrift effects in the snow, highlighting, or actually not highlighting, but rather low lighting the snow areas where there would be maybe a road or a snowbank under the truck. And now I'm taking a tiny bit of the brown black mixture while the silver lining paint is still wet. I am blending it in and creating some shading under the truck and also going up to the actual barn, almost as if the truck drove from there. And now I'm taking a very dark green. It is a green that I mixed with black. And I'm creating a Christmas tree in the back. And now I am creating a wreath for my truck grill. And here I'm taking some mixture of green and white together, and I'm just creating some highlights for this tree to just give it a little bit of depth. You can capture these steps of creating this wreath with a bow and little berries on it, and a blanket that is coming out of the basket. Now I will show you how I did create all the folds for the blanket. I just took some silver lining and I just went with the flow of the pattern and the lumps that I had created. And now I'm creating a red and black flannel pattern on my blanket. And now in this upper corner I'm going to create a little snowman. And once again, this is a lot of patience because it is very small and a very small thin brush, and I'm just using some silver lining to create the body outline, and I'm using another small brush to create the two little stick arms and fingers for the snowman. It's very delicate work. Now I'm going to create a small top hat for my snowman. This is so small, you don't really need a lot of definition, just some very basic items on your snowman. And I created his eyes, his little coal mouth, and now I'm going to add a little red scarf. Because it's so small, it's very difficult to become very intricate with a lot of details. So I think the lesser details, the better. I did create some shading underneath the snowman. And now I'm taking my black and I'm going to give some definition to the bow on the grill of the truck. And here it is, my #1 DIY craft. I had so much fun putting it together, and my audience seemed to really like it as well.
I've been cooking up something really spooky and fun for you today. It is a haunted house. I usually give a play-by-play instruction of how I created everything, but I've decided to just simply show you. I certainly hope you enjoy my haunted house. If you're enjoying this video, please give me a big thumbs up like. And if you haven't done so already, I would certainly appreciate your consideration to subscribe to my channel. And if you don't want to miss any of my upcoming videos, click on that notification bell and select the word all. Thanks again so much, you guys, for stopping by. I truly appreciate your support. Don't forget to look around you for the beauty in your life. It's right there waiting for you to see it. Until the next video, have a great day.
Please don't forget to check out that playlist link down in the description box. It includes an amazing lineup of DIY top 20 videos.